Tonight, we're learning more about the second immigrant child to die in Border Patrol custody this month.
8-year-old Felipe Alonzo Gomez died after several trips to the hospital, all on Christmas Eve.
Tonight, border reporter Oscar Marcaine explains the measures the government is taking to better protect migrant children in its custody.
In this border brief, death of a migrant child. It's the second death of a migrant child in less than 3 weeks while in the care of border agents. This is the New Mexico hospital that treated 8-year-old Felipe Alonzo Gomez on Christmas Eve, where he was initially diagnosed with a cold and a fever, then prescribed antibiotics. Gomez later died that night after his condition worsened. In a statement, Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen pointed to immigration loopholes, abuse of the asylum laws, overcrowding of facilities, and lack of resources as underlying issues that pose a risk to migrants seeking to come to the U.S. Nielsen said DHS will be conducting secondary medical screenings for all of the minors in their custody and asked other federal agencies for medical assistance and training. Gomez was held in custody for almost 6 days, twice as long as permitted under current law. The boy's father is reportedly still detained and in contact with Guatemalan authorities. Meanwhile, the body of 7-year-old Jacqueline Calmaquin arrived at her hometown in Guatemala, where a funeral was held on Christmas Day. Right now, an investigation into her death is underway. That's your border brief. I'm Oscar Marcaine reporting.